What's going on, everyone? Badger here. Sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. Right now, Joe Rogan is making a lot of news because he said there was a psyop from the legacy media to ruin President Trump's image. And I would suggest to you that they've done that multiple times and are continuing to do it. First and foremost, they've done it to almost all of the YouTube content creators that speak out in the culture war. We're the alt-right grifters that radicalize people you keep hearing about. No. We're just normal, everyday people who are tired of seeing their content, the stuff that they watch and franchises, etc., destroyed. Then they've destroyed Trump doing it. Then if you ask a normal person that only pays attention to the old legacy media, and you ask them about Elon Musk, oh, they think he's the devil. And the same exact thing has happened to J.K. Rowling, who, for merely having the sin of acknowledging that there's two genders and that they should be protected by having their own spaces and not be violated, and women shouldn't be forced to compete with men that have body or gender dysmorphia in the same sports, etc. She's had the same psyop pushed where she's been taken out of context and only negative stories, until the point where, yes, people, much like they think about Elon and others, think that she's an actual Nazi and evil, etc. And now she's speaking out on it. So we're starting to see some reframing, and this happens before. And yes, obviously she's been called Voldemort, and she's been disavowed by several of the cast who, fucking traitors. This all comes from this New York Times piece right here, where he says, to get on the wrong side of transgender activists is often to endure their unsparing criticism. You just asked Gina Carano about this. And by unsparing criticism, they mean death threats and threats of being beaten. After a Democratic congressman defended parents who expressed concerns about transgender athletes competing against their young daughters, a local party official and ally compared him to a Nazi cooperator, and a group called Neighbors Against Hate organized a protest outside his office. When J.K. Rowling said that denying any relationship between sex and biology was deeply misogynistic and regressive, a prominent LGBTQ group accused her of betraying real feminism. A few angry critics posted videos of themselves burning her books. And this is a gross under-explaining of what actually happened. And now she is taking it on herself to explain what actually has happened. And yes, maybe now that saner heads are prevailing, and they're trying to act like we didn't just go through the last 8, 9, 10 years, but we did. So here's J.K. Rowling with her response to that. The rewriting of history begins. Opponents of gender ideology haven't merely endured unsparing criticism. I haven't simply been told I betrayed real feminism or received a few book burning videos. I've been sent thousands of threats of murder, rape, and violence. A trans woman posted my family's, I remember this too, the doxing incident. A trans woman posted my family's home address with a bomb making guide. My eldest child was targeted by a prominent trans activist who attempted to dox her and ended up doxing the wrong young woman. I could write a 20,000 word essay on what the consequences have been to me and my family, and what we've endured is nothing compared to the harm done to others. Yeah, this is the Chloe Coles that have been forever maimed by surgeons and doctors. And God knows. Anyway, by standing up to a movement that relies on threats of violence, ostracization, Jesus, and guilt by association, all of us have been smeared and defamed, but many of us lost their livelihoods. Some have been physically assaulted by trans activists. It's ma'am. Female politicians have been forced to hire personal security on the advice of police because the police are pussy asses and won't do anything. The news that one of the UK's leading endocrinologists, Dr. Hilary Cass, was advised not to travel by public transport for her own safety should shame everyone who let this insanity run amok. One of the real times when the Roman Empire was falling, because we love to think about that, it was described as the road started to get dangerous and no one could explain why. Sound a little familiar to you? Just a little familiar to you? Lest we forget, gender apostates have been targeted for crimes such as doubting the evidential basis for transitioning children, for arguing for fair sports for women and children, for wanting to retain single-sex spaces, and for acknowledging that basic biology exists and to protect women from having to compete against men in sports, and all the other abhorrent things that we've somehow convinced everyone was just fine. And that, of course, was all done. It's weaponized compassion, and at the best interpretation, evil at the worst. But let's be, a lot of times we say people are evil, and that's just because we don't want to admit that some people are just pieces of shit that make horrible choices. A lot of this is like a Munchausen by proxy. They love to have their little trans or gay. This is what Hollywood, where all of a sudden everyone has trans kids. No, they would look at how stunning and brave we are with our trans kids. Look how modern we are. It's pretty sickening, and it's doing lifelong damage to all of us for different reasons. Finishing out here now, the political landscape has shifted, and some who've been riding high on their own supply are waking up with a hell of a hangover. They've started wondering whether calling left-wing feminists who wanted all female grape sinners Nazis was such a smart strategy. Maybe parents arguing that boys ought not to be robbing their daughters of sporting opportunities might sort of have a point. Possibly letting any man who says I am a woman into the locker room with 12-year-old girls could have a downside after all. Mealy-mouthed retconning of what has actually happened over the past 10 years is predictable, but will not say, no, this we cannot let stand. We must. I'm all fine for truth and reconciliation, all that fun shit. But anyone who engaged in this and like othered everyone and called them Nazis and basically called for their death, because that's what calling someone a Nazi is essentially doing, because that's what we do to Nazis. Yeah, they need to have their time in the sun, in the spotlight. I don't doubt those who've turned a blind eye to the purges of non-believers, or even applauded and encouraged them, would rather minimize what the true cost of speaking out was. But yes, maybe trans activists went a little over the top at times. Takes are frankly insulting. A full reckoning on the effects of gender ideology on individuals, society, and politics is still a long way off, but I know this. The receipts will make very ugly reading when that time comes, and there are far too many of them to sweep politely under the rug. You're goddamn right, sister, and I stand with her. Mama Joe has never betrayed us despite what others think. She's always stayed the same. Gandalf was always gay. The receipts are going to make for some ugly reading, and that's just not in this sphere. That's politics. That's all you motherfuckers in COVID that all of a sudden you became experts on ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine overnight. You just shoveled the message out for the pharmaceutical companies. Guess what? Your time's coming. Time's coming real soon, and that is a threat of not violence, but you will come out into the sun. You will all be put on blast. No one will escape the retribution of the receipts being read. The receipts being read. That's the one beautiful thing about the digital age, is all the dumb shit that you tried to do and all the dumb shit you said, from vaccine passports to the social credit, to all the dumb things you tried, to the othering, to people in Congress saying, I can't tell you what a woman is because I'm not a biologist. Oh, yes, indeed, my friends. The receipts have been kept, and they will be read. But you let me know what you think about all this. Are you having the time of your life? Because, again, we're back to boofing white pills right now. Don't get complacent, because the receipts still need to be read. But boy, oh boy, are they compiling. Anyway, let me know what you think. Make sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. Goddamn, let's go, Joe.
Well, bye.